Guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is so very special. Finally, I'm doing this video. We are trying the Natasha Denona Tan palette for the first time, and this is the beautiful tan palette. If you are into like neutral tones, neutral to cool leaning tones, I would say, then this palette is going to be your jam. I am gonna give you a review, comparisons, and 3 different eye looks using this palette. If you want to see all of these thoughts wrapped up in one video, then this video is perfect for you. If you're ready, let's begin. Instead of showing you all the swatches, I generally do not swatch Natasha Denona palettes with my fingers just because I feel like it just destroys the wet matte. So I'm going to use my brush, but I want to show you some similar shades. Of course, all the other shades that I'm not swatching is a little different, but I want to show you swatch the similar shades that personally you would think that it is similar. So I'm going to swatch Sandal. So let's apply Sandal on the back of hand. So that is Sandal. I would say again neutral, but this shade is the only shade that you would see a little bit more warm leaning. Again, not too warm for sure, but neutral to a hint of warm, I would say. Okay, so that is Sandal. Next, let's swatch this shade, which is Daydream, which is pretty much like a satin shadow is what they say. I personally feel that this definitely qualifies like a wet matte shadow, but let's see. It has a satinness to it, but I just want to show you the depth and the undertone difference. So that is Daydream. And this Daydream shade is definitely much more grayer than this shade. Like for smoky eye looks, if you just lay down Daydream on your lid, that will give you an amazing, amazing smoky eye. Let's move on to the shade Glide. I am wiping my brush in between, if you're wondering that. So let's do Glide. Now Glide, I would say, is similar to Sandal. Think of a shade that's in between these two. Daydream and Sandal is the shade Glide. So that is the shade Glide. Hope you can see it. It's a little bit more deeper than the other two, but think of a tone in between them, like a cooler, like a little bit more of a neutral brown mixed with gray. That's what you get here. Now let me swatch the shade Dip, which is the deepest shade in the palette. And this is where you will get all the deep, dark, smoky eye looks. And you can see that jump going in with Dip. Again, you're not looking for this palette if you're looking variety, okay? On the eyes, you can see that it's gonna be much, much more similar to what you're seeing on my eye or what you're seeing on my hand. Next, let's do this shade Kissed, which is again a little bit more of a satin shade. I don't see myself like wearing Kissed so much just because again I don't wear like satin. It's like disappearing on my skin. I don't even know if you can see it. I promise I'm applying it, but it's pretty much like my skin tone shade, just a little shiny. Can you see that? That is the shade Kissed. Now I'm gonna take the shade Toasted, which is also their satin shade. Again, it might just like melt into my skin. It's just one shade deeper than my skin, but just because of the shininess, you might see it. Can you see that? There you go. Okay. So those are the shades that are pretty similar, I would say. Rest of the shades are very different. So I don't think that you need to see. You will see the difference on the eyes. But these are very, very similar shades. Just a little bit of undertone difference, okay? Now, once you've seen those shades in action, let's move on to the 3 looks that I created using this palette. Let's begin a look with the Natasha Denona Tan palette. I'm so excited. I've not dipped into this palette. Just received this and I cannot wait to show you more looks with this. Truly looks like a very tan palette, but leaning towards, I would say, neutral to cool tone. I don't see much warmth here, being very, very honest. I have a neutral skin tone and this looks very neutral, so I'm very excited about that. So let's begin. I am going to start off with this shade Paddle, this one in my crease, and see how that performs. It's a very, pretty much like my skin tone shade, so I'm going to take that as like, yeah, pretty much like my skin tone shade, I would say. And I'm planning to show you 3 different looks. And this is gonna be like my blending shade, at least for my medium tan skin tone, I would say. When I open this palette, I feel like there is more variety when I open it. Of course, there are a lot more like medium to deep skin tone friendly things. But for my skin tone, I feel like this and this is pretty much like very my skin tone shade. Actually, this is much more brighter, I would say. but this is my skin tone shade. Even this one, this is Soft Spot, which we do have in I Need a Warm, I think, and that is a very beautiful transitioning shade for me. So anyways, this is Paddle. Let's move on to the next shade. And I am gonna take, I won't lie, everything looks so similar, like these 4 shades actually, like this shade, this shade, this shade, and even this shade. It looks so similar, just in various different depth tones. I am gonna take this shade Glide, this one, and this is like a cream to powder formula, which I personally, I really like. It's so good for like an everyday look. It doesn't crease on me, it blends so beautifully. I'm going to start off with the outer corner and then bring it into the crease, and I do pack it up with like a more denser brush whenever I'm going for like cream to powder formulas. But this is truly a tan shade. Okay, I'm going to take it like that into the crease, and then taking that same shade on my lower lash line. I personally feel you don't need to muddy up like mixing too many shades from this palette, because it is gonna look pretty similar, I would say, because it is a tan palette. And I knew when I was going into this palette that it is gonna look pretty similar. Brown tones, how different can it look on one skin tone? We know the cons about it. I just want to see how really different it can be. I am going to start off now with this shade Dip, which is the deepest shade, which I pretty much feel like I am going to dip into this shade pretty much every time I dip into this palette, because you know that I love a good deeper outer corner. It totally would depend on when you are placing it. Like I place this right on top of Sandal, right? So it is going to soften it out a little bit. But if I build this shade first on my eyelid, this is going to look a little bit more deep, which I'll show you in this eye look. So don't worry about it. This again is a cream to powder formula. So both of them would really melt into each other beautifully. So there'll be like no harsh lines. Okay, you can totally keep this more matte. If you'll keep it matte, I would just take this Lazy shade on the inner portion and call it a day, and that will be amazing. But of course, you know me, I need to dip into some shimmers. So what are we gonna do is, I'm gonna first start off with like a more satiny kind of shimmer, which is Toasted in this case, and let's take that right in the center. Now if you don't want like super sparkly shade, this is amazing for that. Like just a true satin shade. Personally, I like all the glimmer and shine, so we have to dip into more glimmery shiny look. And for that, what are we gonna use? Maybe let's dip into Serene, this one. And Serene looks like a very neutral creamy kind of shade. So let's, yeah, see, look at the difference. This definitely serves a little bit more shimmer and shine on the eye, and that's picking up with a brush. Let's try and do it with a finger and see. Yeah, totally packs a lot more punch with the finger, and this feels so creamy. Like doesn't feel like a powder shadow. I don't know why. It totally feels like a creamy shadow. Okay, so that's a super beautiful bronzy kind of look. I'm not gonna do too much to this. I think this is good enough, and this is gonna be like the look that you're getting pretty much in from this palette. I am gonna dip back into this Dip shade, which is the deepest shade in the palette, just right there. Also taking it on the lower lash line, just on the outer corner, going back into that Glide shade, this one. Glide, did I say Sandal? I did say Sandal sometime. And then just blending the edges. Okay, perfect. Now for the inner corner, I am gonna take this shade Celeste, this one, and let's take that right there. Yeah, very bright, superb for inner corner lid shade, really pretty. Okay, That's all that I'm gonna do here. Let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll come right back to show you my first eye look. And there you go, that's my first eye look. I really love the way how this turned out. Again, perfect for every day. If you love a good like neutral smoky eye, I feel like it's gonna be so apt for you. Again, do not go with this palette if you are looking for a lot of variety in your eye looks, because again, it is a brown palette. You might have these shades over and over again in your collection if you're a big eyeshadow palette wearer like me. But I feel like definitely there are so many things that you can do with this palette. I am very excited for this. Let's begin with the second eye look. I'm going to start off this time with the shade Dip, which is the deepest shade in the palette. Again, I definitely see myself like dipping into the shade over and over again. Pretty much whenever I'm going to dip into this palette, I feel like I will dip into Dip. So now see, I applied Dip here too and here too, and you can see much more depth here just because I went with like a very, like this is the first shade that I applied on my eyelid, and it will pack a punch if you do apply this first, rather than you applying it on top of each on top of another shadow, because it will manipulate the shadow that is underneath. So just do keep that in mind. If you're looking for more depth, go with this shade first. Okay, now because it's a cream to powder formula, it will blend so effortlessly. And let's move on to the next shade. Talking about that, let's move into the shade Sandal. This one, the first shade. And this also is a cream to powder formula. This palette definitely has like too many cream to powder formula. I know some people really like it, which is me, and some people do not prefer cream to powder formula and prefer her traditional matte formula, creamy matte formula, which I really like Natasha Denona mattes in general. I prefer her mattes more than her shimmer shadows. There you go. I'm taking that same shade on the lower lash line too. Okay, so once we have that, you can see definitely much more smokier as compared to this shade. This eye look, this is definitely much more wearable, everyday friendly for me. Now I'm gonna go into this shade Lazy. This one, pretty much like a cleaning up shade for me, I would say, or brightening. Underneath the brow bone, on the crease, just to melt everything together. It's a little bit more on the peachier side. I'm taking Sandal again. This one is Daydream also a cream? Oh, it does look like cream. What? Are there so many cream shadows here? Anyways, let me finish off with Sandal. Sandal on the lower lash line. I'm gonna dip into this Daydream shade, this one, and taking that on the same brush. That also looks like cream to powder formula, and I'm gonna take that pretty much on the entire eyelid, I would say. Yeah, for a smoky eye look, like you can go smoky pretty much effortlessly without making any mistake, because this would take you there. So pretty. Like look at that. You can totally rock that as like a smoky eye. I'm just taking Kissed now just to blend everything together. And Kissed definitely has a little hint of shimmer. Nothing noticeable to my naked eye, I would say, being very honest. Now let's move on to a different shade, and let's move on to Brook. This one, let's add to the smokiness. Why does every shade look so creamy? I do not understand right now. I'm gonna just tap it right on top, and this has a lot of silver sparkles running throughout it. I'm just tapping it just for a subtle effect. I will go on with a heavy hand, but I just wanted to show you both the ways. Like if you just tap it, you will get that silver shimmer, like a hint of shimmer and sparkle just running all across the eyelid, and that is a very nice look. Like in the evening time when the yellow lights are falling onto you, it's really pretty. But let's go a little bit more glam with Brook, and this time I am gonna swipe it, and you will see the impact coming much higher this way. Okay, so I'm just placing it right there. Perfect for smoky eye. Dipping back into Dip, the deepest shade, taking it in the outer corner, all across the lash line, I would say, and then dipping it right here, just to melt everything together. Should I take Celeste again or Villa? Let me first start off with Villa, because Villa looks like a subtle shade, not too much. And this is Villa, a champagne shade. Yeah, if you want to just keep it, let's just actually keep it till Villa, because we'll keep all the brightness. This is definitely much more brighter than this one, if you can see the difference. Celeste has a little bit more razzle dazzle sparkle. This is definitely more traditional shimmer, but much more brighter. Once we are done with that, let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara. And there you go, that's my second eye look. I really love the way how this also turned out. Even though it's more of a deeper smoky eye, it's not that deep that you cannot pull it off. I can totally rock this to office. So that is saying that it is definitely much more wearable smoky, and you will not get like a raccoon eye when you apply these shadows. Because of that cream to powder formula, it easily mixes into each other. Especially, I feel like majority of the mattes here are cream to powder formula, until and unless they are more like crease shade or like brightening up shade. Like you can see, Sandal, Dip, Glide is definitely more cream to powder formula. Daydream definitely looks like a cream to powder formula, but that's not like a traditional matte. But on the eyes, it definitely would show up as a matte shade. So I feel like majority of the mattes are definitely more on the cream to powder formula side, and I think it was definitely more deliberately done like that, just so that it is more easier for an everyday person. And you can see, like if you see it in person, you can see that this is definitely much more deeper than this one. I feel like both of them are very beautiful. This is very sultry, very beautiful, but it had with that silver sparkle running throughout it. It's really pretty. And this one is definitely more like everyday friendly, which also I absolutely love. Now once you've seen the first two eye looks, now let's move on to the third eye look. Okay, let's begin with the last and the final look with the shades that we've not touched so far. So I am going to start off with this soft spot shade, and let's apply that in the crease. And this is pretty much, I would say, a perfect crease shade for me. It pulls very neutral on me. Look at that, that's like a perfect transitioning shade. Superb. I'm also gonna take that same shade on my lower lash line too. Let's do a halo eye today, just to give it a little bit more difference in the looks. And all these shades are super buildable, so it depends on how much you need that color to show. Okay, so that is one shade, soft spot all across. Now let's move on to the next shade. Let's take the shade Sandal, this one. And Sandal, I'm gonna take that on the outer corner, inner corner, not too much. I just want something to melt it into the dip shade that we're gonna apply next. It's all that I'm looking for. Same shade, whatever is left on the lower lash line. Taking a smaller brush with the shade Dip, the deepest shade in the palette, which I told you, majority of the time I am going to take that shade. Outer corner, inner corner, and we will blend it in just a second. And this is just to get that depth that I'm looking for, and also on the lower lash line. Okay, just right there. I'm placing it in the extreme outer corner, and then just flicking it in, just so that everything blends into the other shades that we have going on, and then whatever is left on the lower lash line. Okay, I'll just go back and forth just a little bit with no additional product, just to blend all of these together, because I don't want like any harsh edges. Okay, now time for shimmers. There's only two shimmers that we have not used. One is burnt and the other one is the sparkling wet formula. I'm going to start off with the burnt shade, which is pretty much like I would say like a rose goldy shade. And you can see again, it's a sparkling foil formula. So this itself is going to be absolutely amazing. And just for the sake of it, obviously I will put the sparkling wet formula on top, but I'll show it in the other eye how it's going to perform if you just apply the sparkling wet formula, just so that you can see the difference. Okay, look at that, that's so pretty. Just tapping the edges again, just so that there's no harsh lines. Okay, so that's a beautiful eye. So that can be like the third look, but wait. For the inner corner, let's just complete it off with Let's do Celeste, this one. Okay, and that will be amazing as a eye look by itself. Just imagine that being the third eye look. Obviously I'll apply mascara and eyeliner, but that's how the look is going to turn out with the shade Burnt. But let's apply now the shade Spritz, which is that very sparkly shade right in the middle. So let me just apply that. And this has a little bit more of a deeper base. So again, you'll get the sparkle and the shine that you're looking for. It's definitely less than what I expected, to be very honest, because when I saw this palette, I felt like this is gonna just be the most sparkly shade. But you can see, because of that deeper base, it's just gonna give that smokiness with that scattered effect of sparkle. I'm definitely underwhelmed a little bit, okay? Won't lie. I'm gonna go back into the Celeste shade in the inner corner, just right there. And that is another kind of look that you can get. Again, I feel like it can be very similar to the Brook shade also, even though it looks different. Now you can see like the middle shade, when I swiped it, the base of the eyeshadow, you can see it's a little bit more on the deeper side. But okay, as promised, I'm going to just take that Spritz shade and just tap it right on top of this, just to get a little bit more of sparkle, the shine. And I'm going to just take the Burnt shade and just place it right here, just so that we even it out. Again, with nothing on the brush, I'm just tapping the edges everywhere. Let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara. And there you go. That's my final eye look. I really love the way how this turned out. It is very glam, smoky, but not over the top. It's definitely a little bit more on the subtle side. I definitely can see myself like wearing this palette to office every single day. I don't think I'll be like overwhelmed by any of the shades. Of course, I can wear all the shades in this palette, so that is what makes it much more wearable. Now, is it going to give you a similar color story every time you do an eye look? Yes, for sure. I feel like for $72, is it a good palette? Yes. Is it a need? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Especially, let me show you the comparison of the palettes so that you can understand what I'm talking about. Let me show you all the Natasha Denona palettes first. Of course, this is the tan palette. I'm going to show it against the Dramatic palette, which she just came in not so long time ago. But you can see it definitely has those tones with those mattes for sure. The shimmers are a little bit different, but do you absolutely need this? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. The mattes, you can get definitely similar vibes, especially with these tones in the top and this in the bottom, and even the deeper matte on this side. With the shimmers, I feel like the Burnt shade, this shade Toasted, they can definitely be achieved by these two shades here. So I feel like, and I also don't feel like for $72, this is worth for the shimmers. If you are a big matte person from Natasha Denona, you still can justify. I don't think you can justify it. Personally, I would say grab it on a sale. Grab it on a sale. I do have a code with Natasha Denona, and my code is Smithy Sony to save you 10% off. Let me also show you Dramatic palette, which is one of my favorite palettes because she gave us so much of variety. When I'm seeing it here, the shade Serenity and Nurture is the only one that I would say is similar, but these are very two different palettes. According to me, I feel like this will give you two separate vibes of looks when you're applying it on your eyes. Now, the palette that is absolutely not similar, I would say, is the I Need a Nude palette, which is, to me, it's so much more lighter. It is so much more like taupey as compared to tans. So this is completely different to the Natasha Denona tan palette. But I feel like you can skip this palette, tan palette, especially if you have the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette and the golden palette together. If you have these two, you definitely don't need it. Let me show you golden palette. Of course, granted, golden is a lot more yellow golden leaning, but look at the mattes. Take a screenshot and look. Like, I feel like the mattes are so similar. The shimmers are definitely a little bit more on the warmer side, but I feel like I like the shimmers a little bit more on the golden palette, a little bit more personally. I feel like you're getting a little bit more variety. I feel like there's so many shades that look similar with the tan palette. So this is definitely a lot more similar than I imagined. Plus, I need a warm. Let me show you that. And when you hear the term, I need a warm, it's not that warm. It's definitely neutral to warm leaning, and this I would consider neutral to cool leaning. But you can see, it is so similar. It is so similar. I feel like you definitely can get the same vibes with the mattes here too. Even the shimmers, it's a little different, but not that. I personally feel if you have golden and I need a warm, you definitely don't need the tan palette. But if you're a collector of Natasha Denona, I also do not blame you for having it. I also wanted to just compare it with Makeup by Mario Master Mattes, because this is, again, that's a full matte palette. But let me show it to you. Again, you can get these mattes over and over again in the collection, again, if you are into those neutral tones. So just keep that in mind. I feel like this is not a necessity for sure. Nothing is a necessity, but this is definitely like a want situation than a need situation, according to me. But that's all. I really hope that this video was helpful for you guys, and by giving you 3 different looks, I also feel like that would also help you to just decide what kind of looks you want to create and what kind of looks you will get out of this palette. I totally tried my level best to give you different looks, but if you are feeling like Smithy, even if you try, it's looking all similar, that's the reality of that palette, that you are gonna get these kind of like a bronzy, smoky eye kind of looks. So do keep that in mind. But that's all for today. If you did like my video, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 to 4 videos every single week, but otherwise I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.